Good evening and welcome to the Sunnyvale City Council District 4 Candidate Forum, hosted by the League of Women Voters of Cupertino-Sunnyvale. My name is Michael Lusk and I'll be moderating tonight. Before we begin the forum, there are some preliminary housekeeping issues we must cover. You may want to have your cell phone at the ready to take photos because we will be presenting URLs, QR codes, and lists of information. Today's forum is being held via a Zoom webinar. It'll run about 90 minutes. Only the candidates and the moderator will be visible, and attendees are in listen-only mode. However, attendees can submit questions via the Zoom Q&A function. I'll explain more about this later. If you have technical problems with Zoom, you can get help by emailing us at techsupport@lwvcs.org. And we have people waiting by to help you. The webinar is being recorded and the recording will be available for replay on the League of Women Voters of Cupertino-Sunnyvale website. Next slide, please. Next, I'd like to give a little bit of background about the League of Women Voters. The League originated in the women's suffrage movement of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The movement culminated 100 years ago in the passage of the 19th Amendment to the US Constitution, which gave women the right to vote. The League's original mission was to educate the new women voters, but its mission now is to educate and inform all voters. The League is a nonpartisan organization. We never support or oppose any party or candidate. Next slide, please. Next, for new voters, here are some remarks about the mechanics of voting. You probably have received your ballot by now. When you filled out the ballot and are ready to return it, pay close attention to how your name is printed on the envelope. Is it your first and last name, or is it your first, middle, and last name? Sign the envelope exactly as your name is printed. There are 3 options for returning your ballot. 2 of them are new. The easiest option for most of us is to simply drop it in the US Postal Service mailbox. For your vote to count, the ballot must be postmarked no later than November 3rd. It's best to mail your ballot off as soon as possible because this year the postal system may be overwhelmed with ballots on or around Election Day, and it may cause your vote to be slow to be counted. The second option is to leave it in an official county ballot drop box. A ballot drop box differs from USPS mailbox in that the ballots will not go through the postal system. They will go directly to the county registrar of voters and will arrive quicker and perhaps more securely. You can leave the ballots off any time of day until 8 p.m. on Election Day. The third option is to drop it off at a Santa Clara County vote center. Vote centers are places with human beings who can assist you. For example, if you need to register or if for some reason your ballot did not arrive in the mail. Starting October 31st, it will be open 9 to 5 every day until Election Day. On Election Day, they'll be open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Next slide, please. This gives you information how to find a voter center or a ballot drop box. You can go to this Santa Clara County Registrar of Voters website or scan the QR code and enter in your address. You'll get a list of vote centers and ballot drop boxes near you. Next slide, please. If you haven't received your ballot by now, the chances are you're not registered to vote. You can check your registration status at this website. After entering your address, you get a retry response that you should register again. It's too late to register online for this election, but as I mentioned before, you can go to a vote center to register and vote conditionally from October 31st through Election Day. Your vote will be counted when your registration is verified. Next slide, please. To help you vote, the League of Women Voters of California has a very helpful website called Voters Edge. The URL is votersedge.org, or you can use this QR code. Voters Edge is a comprehensive, nonpartisan online guide to elections and candidates, and it can help you to locate nearby ballot drop boxes and vote centers. It has information on all the federal, state, and local races and state and local ballot measures. Next slide, please. Now on to tonight's forum. This is the first election under Sunnyvale's new district system for electing city council members. In this election cycle of November 2020, elections are being held in districts 2, 4, and 6. Districts 1, 3, and 5 will hold elections in November of 2022. As you can see from the graphic, District 4 occupies the southeastern corner of the city, roughly from Hendy Avenue and the railroad tracks in the north to the Cupertino line in the south, from portions of Wolf and El Camino to the west to the Santa Clara line in the east. You can view a map of District 4 or any district by going to the City of Sunnyvale website on the elections page, or you can go to votersedge.org. Next slide, please. Now let's introduce the candidates, Paul Lesevic Campos and Russ Melton. We can turn off the presentation, and gentlemen, will you start your video? Welcome, Paul and Russ. Good to see you.
Thank you.
The candidates have agreed to the format and ground rules for this forum. The candidates will have 90 seconds to respond to the first and last questions and 60 seconds for all the other questions. In addition, each candidate has the right to exercise one 30-second rebuttal. They may use the rebuttal to respond to remarks from the other candidate, but they may not use them to add to their own comments or go off topic. They will signal their desire to make a rebuttal by raising their hand. All right, as you can see, a timer is visible in a separate box. The timer box will give the candidates visual signals to help them pace their responses and stay on time. The questions for this forum were gathered via email in advance, and we will start with those questions. We'll do our best to also take questions from tonight's audience and pose them to the candidates as time permits. If you'd like to submit a question, please click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and type in your questions. Questions must be aimed at both candidates and must not be of a personal nature. We have league volunteers monitoring them, and they will do their best to consolidate them by topic and provide them to me. We now turn our attentions to the candidates for Sunnyvale District 4. Candidates, thank you for participating. The speaking order for the question was randomly chosen in advance. You have 90 seconds for this first question. The first question is, what are your qualifications and what do you hope to accomplish as the District 4 Council member? Paul, you go first.
Thank you for having me. My qualifications are that I have worked across a variety of industries. I grew up here in the Bay Area, but I went to school on the East Coast at Cornell University. I've worked in Germany doing research. I've also worked as an environmental engineer in Peru at a mining site. And I've also worked in the tech industry and the biotech industry, not just in the Bay Area, but directly here in Sunnyvale. So I'm familiar with our job market from firsthand experience. So I have also worked in different roles. So I know how to work as part of a team and also how to go through lots of information quickly and leverage other people who know more than me. What I wish to accomplish as a member of the City Council is I would like to see reform of the way the campaign finance is administered in Sunnyvale for our local races. And I would also like to see more sustainable development in our city and in my district. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Russ?
Thank you, Michael. It's great to be here, and good evening, Sunnyvale District 4. I'd like to start off by saying thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and all the incredible volunteers for putting on tonight's important campaign forum. My name is Russ Melton, and I'm your incumbent Sunnyvale City Council member for seat number 5. Thank you for electing me in 2016 to represent you on City Council. With Sunnyvale's transition to district elections, I'm running for re-election to City Council to represent District 4, awesome Southeast Sunnyvale. Prior to my time on council, I spent 4.5 years in service on the Sunnyvale Planning Commission. I'm a Palo Alto native and have lived in the city of Sunnyvale since the year 2000, with a career in high tech before dedicating myself to public service. My priorities for Sunnyvale are fiscal sustainability, especially navigating general fund revenue reductions in light of the COVID-19 emergency, smart infrastructure, managing balanced growth and land planning and housing, environmental sustainability, and compassion for community, including Black Lives Matter and Sunnyvale Unity. I have the experience and temperament to lead Sunnyvale through the opportunities and challenges that lie ahead. I ask for your vote for Sunnyvale City Council, and you can learn more at www.meltonforcouncil.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. Okay, the second question, we'll start with you. What are the most important citywide issues you see facing the City Council? You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, I'll go first with housing, and I think we're going to be talking about that later in the candidate forum. I'm also going to say budget issues with the COVID-19. We've had a big impact in revenue reductions to the city's general fund, which is our flagship for services to the public, including public safety, roads, parks, library, sales taxes and hotel taxes are down. And we're going to need a steady hand at the helm to navigate the city through the challenges that lie ahead. And that's why I think that folks need experienced council members, such as myself, for those challenges. I also think that public safety is a critical thing for the city of Sunnyvale, and I look forward to discussing that as well this evening. Thank you.
Okay, Paul, same question to you.
So I feel that across the city of Sunnyvale, but also particularly in District 4, is that there is a lot of development going on, which affects housing. So I feel that this is the most pressing issue facing Sunnyvale right now. The cost of living is going up very quickly. As I was collecting signatures to prepare my candidacy, one of the things that I was hearing a lot was dissatisfaction with the way things were done, where a lot of people felt that they weren't being listened to, and that the construction that's going on isn't not just in Sunnyvale, but adjacent to it in Santa Clara, is kind of affecting them negatively. And the other issue is, it seems that some of this development that is happening in areas that it's not zoned for. And that's my answer.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question starts again with you, Paul. What is the most important District 4 specific issue? What are the most important District 4 specific issues?
Well, I'm going to kind of go back to what I said before. I believe that it's housing. I know one topic that has come up a lot is affordable housing. In addition to that, rent control for mobile home tenants. Speaking of which, I think we need to focus on having more affordable housing. It seems that a lot of the housing that is happening right now is focused to be a maybe middle class, upper middle class. Doesn't seem to be focused more with affordable housing. And I think that what we need to do is we need to protect the most vulnerable population that we have right now, and also make it so that more people can live in Sunnyvale. I believe that the ratio of jobs to housing is at 1.4 since 2017. So that is my answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Same question to you, Russ.
Thank you, Michael. Sunnyvale District 4 has many issues in common, of course, with the entire city of Sunnyvale. I'd say there are 4 top issues for District 4. I hope we have a chance, Michael, later tonight to talk about airplane noise at the Apple campus, I hope we have a chance to talk about safe routes to school, particularly El Camino Real and Poplar. But I want to spend a few seconds talking about the Wolf Road roadway condition, which many District 4 residents know is pretty choppy, and I've been working very hard to make sure that city staff continues to work with PG&E to complete their utility line undergrounding project so that we can finally get to resurfacing Wolf Road between Homestead and El Camino. And then finally is public safety, and that includes robberies, package thefts, vehicle smash and grabs. And my number one piece of advice, please, District 4 residents, follow the Department of Public Safety on social media and follow their advice.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Russ, again with you. What steps should the city take to cope with COVID-related loss of revenue?
Yeah, so that's a budget question, and Sunnyvale has a general fund that is roughly $200 million a year. And earlier this year, Michael, we had to remove $25 million from our general fund. And as I mentioned, that's our flagship services funding mechanism in Sunnyvale. And we had to make cuts along the lines of freezing open recs, a reserve release, reallocating some spending from the general fund to some of our enterprise funds, and good old-fashioned spend reductions. I asked that city staff come back to council every 3 months with a financial update. And in fact, we're going to be talking about that next Tuesday. I took a look at that, and to me, it looks like things may be stabilizing, but we're not out of the woods. And we're going to take a very close look to see where our revenues are coming in and any further actions that need to be taken. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Paul, same question.
I think one of the things we need to focus on is stimulating small business within Sunnyvale. As we all know, this COVID-19 has affected everyone. Everyone's affected by it. We're all in it together. But the people who have been particularly hit hard are people in small businesses. Across the country, we're being told that there are many small businesses that their doors are closed permanently and that they're not coming back. So I think one of the things we need to focus on is to stimulate small business growth and opening within Sunnyvale, not just in the downtown area. And that one other thing we may need to consider, we have many large projects that Sunnyvale does need going on, is to consider having bonds being sold in order to increase investment. That might be one thing that we should look into. Other cities have tried it with success as well. That is my answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question is again to you, Paul. How would you support school-aged children with low-cost internet so that there is equity in education during and after COVID? Would you favor city-financed citywide Wi-Fi?
Yes, I know many people have said we should kind of have a public utility for this, but I think that based off of the fact that our great state of California is experiencing rolling blackouts, I don't know if that would be the best idea. I do believe it should be city financed, but again, since we're talking about how can we re-stimulate the economy in Sunnyvale, and many people ask, what can we do to support small businesses outside of the downtown area, is maybe we could kind of have some initiative where this local citywide Wi-Fi is administrated by small businesses within the areas of Sunnyvale that will be maintaining that Wi-Fi. That would allow small businesses to flourish. It would provide students and children with equity in terms of access to Wi-Fi, and it would help us move forward.
Okay, thank you. Russ?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. When we talk about schools, the first thing I want to say is thank you to our incredible school districts here in the city of Sunnyvale. All 4 of our school districts are walking this incredible high wire act with COVID and finding a safe pathway to reopen our schools. The question about Wi-Fi is an important one, especially in the age of COVID and the recovery. I think probably that's one for the school districts rather than for the city of Sunnyvale. But that said, Michael, the city of Sunnyvale has a long track record of collaboration with our school districts, and I'll give you a couple of examples. One is the branch library up in the northern part of the city, and one was the phenomenal collaboration between Sunnyvale and Santa Clara Unified during that very alarming pedestrian accident last fall at El Camino and Poplar. So we can collaborate with schools, and I'm just going to put in a quick plug here. Someday soon, we're going to need crossing guards back in the city of Sunnyvale, and we may have a shortage. So if you see an all hands on deck message, please respond for crossing guard services. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So Russ, this next one goes to you. Will you commit to not selling or bartering away any of the public land on and around the City Hall / library complex?
The answer, Michael, is yes. I've said that before. I'll say it again tonight, and I'll say it again in the future. Under no circumstances whatsoever am I going to sell or barter land at the Civic Center complex for any reason. That's an absolute treasure. And let me flip the coin upside down on this, Michael, because I take great pride in my leadership in trying to get the courthouse property as part of the City of Sunnyvale Civic Center. And folks may be asking, Russ, what courthouse property are you talking about? Well, folks, you've driven past it 100 times on El Camino in between Matilda and Pastoria. You'll see an old semi-abandoned courthouse. Well, technically that belongs to the state of California, but it's right smack dab in the middle of the Civic Center. And oh, the things we could do with that. So my commitment over the next 4 years is to continue trying to turn all the knobs and levers of the complicated land deal that I want to do to get that courthouse as part of the Civic Center. Thanks, Michael.
Okay, thank you. And Paul, the same question to you.
Thank you. Yes, I would commit to not selling any of that public land, but not only in the areas that you mentioned, but I would like to go further and say that I would also commit to not selling any of Sunnyvale's public land. I know that that has happened in the past and that the residents of Sunnyvale have not been very happy with that. And one of the reasons why is because they didn't see that they received any real benefit from it. It seemed that the benefit from those sales of public Sunnyvale land went more to private groups. Moreover, another thing that we may want to consider doing is to buy back some of the private land located within our borders and consider what projects we could use that land for in order to help our citizens. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So this question to you, Paul. Do you believe that there are now adequate safeguards against improper sale of city lands or improper zoning? Would you support a ballot measure requiring city land use decisions to go to the voter, each decision to go before the voters?
I'm glad that question came up because there have been other questions in the past that kind of touched on that topic. Many people will say, oh, we shouldn't have it go to the voters because that's going to make the process longer. I do believe that it should be a ballot measure and that it should go to the voters. There have been several programs within Sunnyvale that have very wide-ranging implications, but they weren't passed with very much input from the residents of Sunnyvale. It seems that several smaller groups worked directly with the city council in order to get that passed in the past, but I believe that things of that nature, they should go to a ballot measure where the residents of Sunnyvale can vote on it the way that they see is best for the city.
Okay, thank you. Russ, same question to you.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. I'll start off by saying that we already have something in place to prevent the sale of parks or open space in the city of Sunnyvale. It's called the Parks Ordinance, and I voted for that back in 2017. What the ordinance does is it requires a 6 out of 7 majority vote by the city council to sell any open space land that's on our parks list as part of the ordinance. So I'm of the opinion that we've already accomplished setting up a very high bar and threshold for any sort of sales. But then I also want to take it a step further because we already have been acquiring private land for new parks in Sunnyvale. We opened a new park over on Degain a couple of years ago. We have a 6.5 acre park opening at the old AMT headquarters site. And right here in District 4, we use Sunnyvale dollars to buy 2.0 acres for a new public park at the Corn Palace site. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Russ. Okay, the next question again is to you, Russ. Do you support rent control or rent stabilization for Sunnyvale mobile home park tenants? If you do support it, how would you ensure that it would not reduce incentives for developers to build new rental housing or reduce the supply for people seeking rental housing? If you do not support it, what can be done to help distressed mobile home tenants?
Yeah, that's a long question for a 60-second response, Michael, but let me give it my best shot. So at our last city council meeting, we talked about this very topic. I'll say that mobile home parks are very important, and we have 4 awesome mobile home parks in District 4. So this is a really important topic. I voted in favor of giving it a go for the next 6 months with an MOU that would be between the city and our mobile home park owners that would incorporate rent control and vacancy control. And the way I phrased it at the council meeting, Michael, is we're going to be holding the sword of Damocles over the heads of the mobile home park owners. And if they don't snap into shape, especially at Plaza del Rey up in the north part of the city, then we're going to get into it with a strict ordinance for rent control and vacancy control. Thank you very much.
Paul?
Thank you.
I know that was kind of a long question. Do you need it repeated?
It had to do with implementing rent control and rent stabilization for mobile home parks, correct?
That's right.
So I do agree with that. They are one of the most at-risk populations. These eviction moratoriums are expiring soon. But to be honest, I'm not sure that rent control would go far enough to protect these residents. I think that we should also try to implement something where that land, if it were to be sold, would be designated for something that would be low income, medium to high density housing. And the reason that I say this is because on El Camino, in between Henderson and Poplar, that shopping center right there across from the assisted living center and the car dealership, there used to be a mobile home park. And it was sold a few years ago. And currently, even though that zone is only zoned for commercial, you now have these kind of luxury apartments going up, and part of the advertising on the side, you could see it says resort style amenities. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Paul, again, this is to you. What plans do you, what actions do you plan to take to help get the downtown completed? What are your specific proposals to help downtown traffic and get downtown traffic and parking out of the adjacent neighborhoods?
So I believe that one of the things that we can do to help the downtown get up and running and get completed is to find a way to fast track the permit process for the people who are finishing getting everything ready there. We should also try to provide incentives so that they finish the work that needs to be done with local Sunnyvale companies and businesses. With regards to getting rid of or reducing traffic in the nearby neighborhoods, because it's kind of a hassle when you have all this extra traffic going through your neighborhood. We might need to implement some kind of parking permit system for those side streets, and maybe work with the local businesses in order to have their parking structures be more accessible to other people who are going to see the businesses there, even if it's not just their business. We should try to find a way to incentivize them so that everyone benefits.
Okay, thank you. Russ, same question?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I want to start off by giving a huge tip of the cap to Sunnyvale City staff who have worked long and arduous to get our new downtown specific plan across the finish line. We approved that last month at City Council. And that sets our vision for the next 20 years of what we want to happen in Sunnyvale's awesome downtown. And I also want to say thank you to our incredible businesses, especially on fantastic historic Murphy Avenue for their patience. And there's going to be a lot of construction going on, so they're still going to have to be patient. Look, number one thing we're going to have to figure out next is what to do with the at-grade crossing at Sunnyvale Avenue that goes over the railroad tracks in light of high-speed rail coming in. So we're going to have to figure that out. The heavy lifting has been done, and all of the design reviews, permitting processes, largely in the hands of Sunnyvale's awesome planning commission. And this now is a matter of oversight, making sure that road barriers and roadblocks to the process don't happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Paul? Oh, I'm sorry. I think going on to the next question, I lost track of where I was. Okay, Russ, this goes to you.
Sure.
Sunnyvale's jobs housing ratio went from 1.4 to 1.7 as of 2017. What do you plan to do, if elected, to balance the jobs versus housing needs of Sunnyvale residents?
Yeah, tremendously critical question. Let's talk about housing, Michael, for a second. And I am of the belief that District 4 in Sunnyvale has the most diverse housing stock in the entire city of Sunnyvale. We've got single family residential, we've got ADUs, duplexes, fourplexes, multiplexes, townhomes, apartments, condos, and mobile home parks. So housing is a really big deal in District 4. Here's what I support. I support ADUs in the city of Sunnyvale. As a matter of fact, my wife and I have one in the backyard. It's been really fantastic for us. But more importantly than that, Michael, I support smart housing in transit corridors. Well, we just got through talking about the downtown specific plan, which is going to add a lot of affordable housing near the Sunnyvale Caltrain station. We have the Lawrence Station area plan area coming up by the Lawrence Caltrain station, and we're working on the Moffett Park specific plan and the El Camino Real precise plan, all of which are great housing opportunities. Thank you, Michael.
Okay, thank you. And Paul, same question to you.
Well, this question is an interesting question because what it brings up in my mind was I remember that there was a very large, what I believe was a single family home right next to Ponderosa Park on Henderson Avenue. And currently that home, it was sold several years ago, but now there are multiple homes there. So it was a rather large parcel of land. So one of the things that we could do to increase the housing supply, as you know, there's a lot of construction going on right now, even in residential areas, is maybe, change some of the zoning to allow what could have been, what is currently a single family home to maybe be a duplex or a fourplex, things like that. I think that finding ways to work with the available land in the residential area that we already have in new ways could allow it to expand while still maintaining the character of the local neighborhoods that we have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this question is again to you, Paul. How will you ensure that residents in Sunnyvale have equitable access to safe and enjoyable parks and open space?
So I believe we kind of touched on that topic a little bit where it was mentioned there are programs to buy back private land and to build new spaces there. However, I think one of the main things that kind of affects this access is transportation. And so one of the things that we may want to consider doing is expanding bike lanes within our city. I understand that could be a bit of a touchy subject because, our streets are kind of crowded as they are, but at the same time, we are going to have a budget shortfall. So one thing that we could do is we could have certain streets designated as a bike lane on certain days of the week in order to open up that access as well.
Okay, thank you. Russ?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. You know, we talk about safe, equitable access to parks in Sunnyvale. We have an incredible network of parks in the city of Sunnyvale. And we also have a program that generates dollars from developers so that we can acquire more parkland, which I talked about, but also rehabilitate all of our parks on a 20-year rolling schedule. Coming up next, Brawley Park in District 4 and a rehabilitation of the playground at Ponderosa Park in District 4. So those are just some of the things that we can do. I also want to mention that in the recently adopted active transportation plan, the portion of District 4 to the west of Wolf Road in between El Camino, Fair Oaks, and Old San Francisco Road was designated as an MTC community of concern for lack of historical development like sidewalks and other critical pedestrian infrastructure that could be used for people to safely get to Brawley Park. And that's something I want to look into in the next 4 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Russ, what is your position on the planned new City Hall/library complex? Do you believe it can be prudently financed? Do you favor an alternative plan?
Prudently financed, Michael? The answer is yes, it already has been prudently financed. So folks who follow this closely will know that the city has already raised $130 million through various sale of surplus land. And then just last Tuesday, City Council authorized the Finance Department to float a bond for $150 million to get the rest of the financing on the $280 million Civic Center Phase 1 project that will build the city of Sunnyvale a new city hall and an extension and rehabilitation of our public safety building. So on next Tuesday, we're going to be talking about the construction contract, which has been awarded and needs to be finalized by City Council. Great news for folks. The construction contract came in $50 million lower than we thought. So this is already off to a great start financially. And we'll see how it goes next Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you. And Paul?
Yes, I think that it's a good idea that a bond was floated to ensure that the construction of these buildings can be completed. Now, as Russ mentioned, there has already been a contract that has been accepted, and that's very good for the city. But I think one thing that we should try to focus on moving forward is ensuring that the work is subcontracted to local groups who would complete that work. Obviously we would prioritize Sunnyvale, but if they're located in nearby cities, say Santa Clara or Mountain View or Cupertino, I feel that would also be acceptable. I think one of the great things about Sunnyvale is that not only do we have high tech, but we also have several different diverse, businesses. Some might call them blue collar, more manual things that are available, but they are there and they have shown that they're resilient in our changing economy.
Okay, thank you. Next question to you, Paul. Sunnyvale will have to redraw the district maps after the census. Do you support an independent redistricting commission? That's the question.
Thank you, Michael. Just for a point of clarification, did they specify what exactly they meant by an independent redistricting commission? Would this be third party, people from outside the city?
No, they did not specify. I think they mean not influenced by the city council.
Okay, so if that is what they mean, a third party commission that is not influenced by the city council, I would be okay with that. However, I think they should have input from people within Sunnyvale. So if we had a mix of people from already established districts and from proposed districts working together with this commission, that would be good. But another thing that I think we should do is there have been concerns that the system that it was recently implemented by having a 6+1 system where we have 6 districts and an at-large mayor, it kind of opened us up to big outside donors. One thing I would like this just like to implement within this redistricting is to go to a 7-district system within Sunnyvale and kind of have the mayor chosen from the elected city council. Because the way that it is where we have an at-large mayor, some areas could be kind of disenfranchised if they don't have the resources available to run for mayor. So I think 7 districts would be better.
Okay, thank you. And Russ?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Hey, just to get quickly back to the last question, I'm totally rolling with Paul about local hire in construction. And in fact, we already have an ordinance about that. So I think that's something we would agree on. Look, about a redistricting commission, I pledge to keep an open mind. Number one, Sunnyvale, I think Sunnyvale staff, our community, our public did a great job in drawing the maps in 2019. So we already have a system in place for doing that, and I felt it worked very well. If we're going to do an independent redistricting commission, first, I believe it has to be comprised of Sunnyvale residents. We are not going to outsource this work to a bunch of retired judges in Palo Alto. This is a Sunnyvale thing that we're going to take care of. Since we're concerned about politicians, then the commission could have no current or former elected officials. And if you serve on the commission, you won't be able to run for Sunnyvale City Council for the next 10 years. We're talking about politicians not being able to draw their own maps. So those would be some starting points I would look at. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Russ. Next question also is to you. What are your plans to support small businesses to revitalize and encourage the life of the city beyond the downtown boundaries? What could be done to help District 4 become a walkable neighborhood?
Yeah, so we talked briefly about the downtown, and great news later this month, the new Whole Foods will be opening and many other wheels and levers are in place for the revitalization of downtown. I want to say some props about awesome Sunnyvale District 4. You start off in District 4 with great diversity in housing in safe neighborhoods. Add to that incredible public schools provided by the Santa Clara Unified School District. Then let's talk about the parks that we have in District 4. Ponderosa, Brawley, and Rayner Park, all fantastic schools. We have a great diversity of shopping, groceries, restaurants along El Camino and along Wolf. If that's not enough for you, we have 2 golf courses in District 4, one by the city and one the privately owned golf land. And still, if that's not enough, in District 4, we have the Lawrence Caltrain station. I think District 4 is incredibly vibrant. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. And Paul, same question to you.
So in terms of supporting small business, throughout the city and not just in the downtown, currently there are a lot of plans for revitalizing different areas of the city. I know that the El Camino plan, for the main El Camino corridor, had a lot to say about what is currently there. I think one of the things that we should prioritize is having, the ability to have not just, places where small businesses could open up, but also have some sort of hybrid development where you have small businesses and affordable housing. In addition to that, I know that Sunnyvale does have a farmer's market, although it has not been open recently due to COVID. But that's located in the downtown. We do have different community centers located at the different parks. And one thing that we may want to consider doing is having something similar on the weekends where people can come and kind of have, advertisement, talk about their business, or even sell their products directly to people in the community.
Okay, thank you. Next question to you, Paul. What will you do to help improve traffic and pedestrian safety in District 4 and throughout the city? Please give us some specifics.
So one of the things that comes to mind most readily is that we should have more of those pedestrian signs where you can press the button and it will say, pedestrians are crossing. However, I think that we may need to make them more obvious. The one that is right next to Ponderosa sometimes is not so obvious. In addition to that, there is a small sign in the middle of that intersection going when you turn off of Lily onto Henderson, going towards El Camino, where it says yield to pedestrians. That sign is consistently run over. So one thing that we need to, and has to be replaced as a result. So one thing that we may need to do is maybe put small speed bumps in certain areas. Right now, it sounds like Indy 500 every other day, at least on my street, where these cars are going incredibly fast. So more pedestrian signs, and we may have to consider, I don't like speed bumps, but we may need to consider them somewhere in District 4.
Okay, thank you. Russ?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Let me talk about some of the things that we've already done for traffic safety in District 4. We've lowered the speed limit. Caltrans lowered the speed limit on El Camino Real from 40 to 35 miles per hour, so it's now consistent. Santa Clara, Sunnyvale, Mountain View. The city of Sunnyvale implemented 15 mile per hour school speed limits near Ponderosa, for example. And Councilmember Mike Goldman and I sponsored a study issued to study improving traffic safety at El Camino Real and Poplar after the traffic accident last autumn. Quite specifically, I'm interested in completing the sidewalk on the east side of Poplar in between El Camino Real and the middle school. It's time to get that sidewalk complete for the safety of our school children. And I'm also interested in building a sidewalk that would connect in my neighborhood, Rayner Park, Norman Drive between Marion and Dunford/Oriole Drive. That's a huge connector between Rayner Park and the eastern side of Birdland that's heavily traveled. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Russ. Next question to you. How will you increase community outreach, engagement, and participation in city business, especially on hot topics that significantly affect a neighborhood?
Yeah, that's a great question. And let me tell you something that I've done in the past as a council member and something that I want to do in the future. Public outreach has always been a difficult topic in Sunnyvale, and we just have to strive to do better. When we were doing, Michael, the outreach process for redistricting and creating the district maps, my direction to the consultant was you have to capture every single piece of public input that you get from these outreach sessions, because I don't want our residents going through all this work to think it through and provide input only for it to get lost in an ocean of community input. And I think the city did a really credible job on that. In the future, Michael, it's going to be about multilingual outreach, especially here in District 4. And how do we tap into the full community and capture their inputs on important topics? Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Russ. Paul?
So I think one of the things that this current COVID-19 crisis has shown us is that we're more resilient and inventive than we think we are. In order to help stimulate outreach, I think one of the things that we really need to start doing is to, leverage the technology that we have available to us. Before all of this, no one would have really thought, does my job really qualify for work from home? And yet many of us, here we are, we've been working from home for several months. So I do believe that the current City of Sunnyvale website is very good. It's very informative. I do have a few ideas of what could be, maybe tweaked a little bit so it's more accessible, but I think we need to leverage technology, leverage social media so that we can outreach more people. One of the things we could do is a forum like that we're doing right now, where this is all online. It's being streamed live, and we could have it recorded, and so that people can watch it later and add their input to it as well. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, to you, Paul. The legislature in Sacramento has been moving on bills to move land use control to the state level. For example, SB 35. Please state your position on local control versus state control.
I am 100% for local control. I do not want to see, the decisions that affect us the most being decided in Sacramento. I think that the people in our city, the residents of Sunnyvale, should have a say in how the land use gets used here. One of the problems with having it, I guess you could say, outsourced to the state level is that you will be having people making decisions on how land is used, and they will not be affected by those decisions. So there will be no feedback based off of their decisions, which will lead to a major disconnect. I believe it is incredibly important for that control to remain local, because as soon as we let go of it just a little bit, more and more things will be decided at the state level instead of the local level. And I feel that we should be firm on this, and that it should be 100% local.
Okay, thank you. And Russ?
I believe that land use decisions should be local, and that's a very important topic to me. I've spoken on this any number of times that I favor local control. Look, let's talk about the history of Silicon Valley, which has been a story of the creation of incredible industry and phenomenal jobs. But along the way, municipalities forgot and didn't build enough housing for all the jobs that were created. I've been asked questions at both ends of the continuum during this campaign. Here's question number one, Michael. People will ask me, Russ, do you favor abolishing single-family residential zoning in Sunnyvale? My answer to that question is no. No, I do not. On the other end, people will ask me, do you favor a hard moratorium on all new construction in Sunnyvale? And the answer to that question is no. No, I do not. The pathway forward lies in the middle of ground, where we need to create more housing and keep local control.
Okay, thank you. So Russ, here's your next question. What will you do to help reduce airplane noise in our city?
Yeah, that's a great question. About 18 months ago, my colleague Glenn Hendricks and I were in Washington, D.C., where we had high-level meetings with the FAA about the impact of airplane noise in communities like Sunnyvale. So this is a very important topic to me. Recently, we've added airplane noise monitoring terminals at 4 locations in Sunnyvale, including nearby Ortega Park over in District 3. This is going to lead to the launch of a public website where folks can dial in and see for themselves what's flying overhead and what their noise footprint is, so to say. Most of the airplane noise in District 4 is from Moffett Field, which has an annual cap. And I'll note that Air Force One flew over my chimney about 6 months ago. Folks who are concerned about helicopter traffic at Apple have a great ally in Russ Melton. I know exactly who to call when the helicopters are buzzing over at Apple Computer, and we can get to the bottom of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. And Paul?
So this question obviously comes up a lot, but you know what? The truth is, it's not just a Sunnyvale issue. If you have, helicopters flying out of the Apple campus, that's also going to affect people in Cupertino. So, and also San Jose Airport is very close by as well. So I think the best way moving forward would be for Sunnyvale to work not just with cities in the Bay Area or in the peninsula, but all of the Bay Area, not just limited to the South Bay. So we should also work with cities in the East Bay as well, to kind of work together to see what we can do to get this airplane noise reduced. In addition to that, one of the best ways to educate the people, I feel, about what's going on is to have some sort of website that is accessible and easy to understand, so you don't have to go digging through a lot of data to see what are all the flight plans that are going on.
Okay, thank you. Next question to you. Do you feel that there is significant racial or social injustice in Sunnyvale? And if so, what would you do about it?
Well, I feel that there is a way to go still, particularly in the way that the companies that are situated here in Sunnyvale treat some of their employees. So I think one of the things we may want to do is to have a commission similar to the EEOC, have something similar to that, but particularly for Sunnyvale, because we have so many different companies here. Having something not just at the federal level, but something local to Sunnyvale as well, since we are such a prime location. So many businesses want to be here. But another thing that I think we need to do is we need to start early. I believe that we should start some sort of center to teach young children about entrepreneurship. Look at what has happened with COVID-19. The African American community has been the most directly affected by the COVID-19 crisis. Behind that, my community, the Hispanic and Latino community, is the second most affected.
Okay, thank you. Russ?
Yeah, Michael, here's one of the most important things I'm going to say today. There is no place in Sunnyvale for racism, hatred, or discrimination. And Sunnyvale takes pride in the incredible diversity of people who form the rich fabric of our city. Some folks who know me and my family know that my beautiful wife, Sammy, is originally from the great country of Algeria, up on the northern edge of Africa and the southern edge of the Mediterranean Sea. And she and I participated in the peaceful Sunnyvale protest march after the murder of George Floyd. And I want to say thank you to the organizers, participants, and to DPS for such an incredible event. Look, we've had 5 listening sessions, Michael, in Sunnyvale to learn more about what the community wants from DPS in the city. And here are the 3 things that I'm zeroing in on. Facial recognition technology to combat racial profiling, militarization of equipment, and mental health services. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Russ, this one's to you. A related question. Are you satisfied with Sunnyvale's public safety department? Do you favor any form of so-called defunding?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, folks who take a look at the Sunnyvale Department of Public Safety, you learn that it became an integrated police, fire, EMT system back in 1950, 70 years ago. And today it's being held up as a potential role model for other cities. A benefit that Sunnyvale has enjoyed for a long, long time is that it costs less from the city's general fund to operate an integrated Department of Public Safety because our incredible officers in DPS can switch at the drop of a dime from being a police officer when duty calls to being a firefighter. I mentioned that we've been taking a look at Department of Public Safety policies and practices, and I'm focusing on whether we can increase mental health services that are available in emergency situations when people call 911. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Paul?
One thing that first of all, the DPS, I want to thank them for, all the things that they do for us. Obviously, it speaks a lot to the fact that we have had them for so many decades in our city before many other cities have integrated their public safety services. So I just want to mention that. However, one thing that I think is important is there's always room for improvement. And I think one of the problems is that many people feel that their voices aren't heard. For this reason, one thing I would support is some sort of civilian oversight or liaison commission. Now, this wouldn't just be anyone can serve on it. I think people from the community of Sunnyvale who can, interact and serve on this kind of oversight commission should have gone through some of the police training and done a certain amount of ride-alongs so they understand what our DPS officers go through on a regular basis and that they have a more complete view of both sides.
Okay, thank you. Next question to you, Paul, is the goals of the Sunnyvale Climate Action Plan, Vision Zero Plan, and Active Transportation Plan will be expensive to reach. What problems would you support in the next 4 years to make significant progress?
Could you repeat that last part? You say, what problems would I support?
What programs would you support in the next 4 years to make significant progress?
Well, definitely one of the things that kind of feeds into another one is the active transportation plan. I would definitely support that. One of the things I like about Sunnyvale is how accessible it is, but we can make it even more accessible. So I feel that the more active transportation we have, the easier it is for people to get around without having to rely on their cars. That will help reduce, these greenhouse emissions and our carbon footprint. But another thing that I think we should look into, is trying to find sustainable sources of energy and trying to give rebates for those things. We already have, as you know, California is in a drought, has been, it's kind of overshadowed now, and there's a rain barrel rebate. But one thing we should consider is expanding kind of that program for other renewable sources of energy for people who want to take that initiative and incorporate that into their housing.
Okay, thank you. And Russ?
Yeah, CAP 2.0, an incredibly important policy for the city of Sunnyvale. Some great news for folks. Back in 2018, we announced that Sunnyvale had already exceeded our 2020 greenhouse gas emission reductions target. And then earlier this year, we announced that we're already halfway to our 2030 greenhouse gas reduction emission target. So great job, Sunnyvale, but there's more work to be done. Look, I'm a huge fan, Michael, of the active transportation plan. I voted for it. And some things that I think are very important is the low stress network. And we have to create a network of streets for bicyclists and pedestrians to feel comfortable navigating the city of Sunnyvale. Great news coming up on Tuesday. City Council will be discussing accepting a grant from Google to create an east-west bicycle network in Moffett Park up in the north part of the city. And I think we need to get the active transportation plan as a council strategic policy priority. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Russ, what do you think of the new district system for electing council members as compared to the old at large? I think you're best qualified of all the candidates to speak on this.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on this. So I was elected in 2016 under the former system in which we had at-large numbered seats. So I ran for election across the entire incredible city of Sunnyvale, but it was time for a change. And so Sunnyvale made the change to district elections, and I'm a big fan of it. Look, we have candidates running in District 2, in the Midtown Heritage District and District 6 that I don't think would have run except for the switch to district elections, because it's a smaller campaign with less resources that you have to bring to bear. And if you look at the incredible diversity of candidates that are coming forward in District 2 and District 6, I think that's the evidence. In District 2, we have a candidate, she identifies as Latina and she identifies as LGBTQ. Up in District 6, we have a candidate who identifies as Muslim. I think I'm excited about where this is going. Thank you.
Okay, and Paul?
I think that the current system is an improvement on the prior one, because now different areas of Sunnyvale will have more direct representation. I know I'm excited about it as a Hispanic individual, especially considering that nearly 20% of the residents in Sunnyvale are, identify as Hispanic or Latino, and there hasn't really been any representation on the city council in over 30 years. So that's why I'm excited to be running for District 4 right now. However, I do believe there is room for improvement. I do not agree with the fact that there is a mayor that is elected at large. One of the reasons why, as it ties into one of the things I mentioned earlier, is campaign finance reform. Having an at-large mayor kind of opens up our election to having a lot of outside donors, being able to put in money and influence our politics. Just in the 2018 election, it was mentioned at one point that more than $300,000 were involved.
Okay, thank you. Well, candidates, we've made awfully good time. This is the last question, and you'll be allocated 90 seconds for this. It'll go to you first, Paul. Please state and answer a question you wish you had been asked.
Well, one of the main questions that I would have liked to have been asked was, what motivated you, someone who doesn't really have any background in politics, to get involved in politics. And so the reason that I decided to run was because I grew up here. I've seen a lot of change in Sunnyvale, during my 33 years of life. And, some of it has been good, some of it has not been good. But as I was collecting, signatures in order to present my candidacy from my future constituents, I noticed that there was a lot of disappointment and at the way that they felt that their needs weren't being addressed properly. They felt that the identity of Sunnyvale is being erased. A lot of people kind of got the feeling that they just want to turn this into a big, apartment complex for the big companies that are here. And for that reason, one of the things I want is to help bring about not just the 7-district system, but campaign finance reform, so that the only people who can donate to our local races are either individuals or businesses or organizations that are based in Sunnyvale, and not companies from outside of Sunnyvale or developers from outside of Sunnyvale.
Okay, thank you. And Russ, the same to you.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. All of the questions that you asked were fantastic. So I'll take this opportunity to just make a closing statement to the voters of District 4. Sunnyvale friends, it's been my honor and privilege to serve as your council member for 4 years. Thank you for electing me to represent you. My priorities are addressing the immediate economic impacts from the pandemic for our citizens, businesses, and city, while continuing to work on longstanding problems of traffic, climate change, and affordable housing, all on a balanced budget. Our accomplishments are many. The downtown is near completion. Long-stalled new housing is open. Sunnyvale remains one of the safest cities in America. Our roads and trees are well maintained. A new city park opened in 2018, and we acquired land for a future park at the Corn Palace site. We've exceeded our 2020 greenhouse gas reductions, and we're ahead of schedule for 2030. Sunnyvale's minimum wage is the highest in the nation, and we enacted an eviction moratorium in response to the pandemic. My background, I served in the Navy, worked in the tech industry, earned an MBA from Santa Clara University, and served on the Planning Commission. My wife and I have 2 children who attend local public schools. Sunnyvale is my home. I'm not done working for you to make Sunnyvale even better, and I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you both candidates, Paul Lesovic Campos and Russ Melton. Thank you very much for your participation. At this point, we're going to return to our slide presentation and make some concluding remarks. You may leave the forum now if you wish. Please turn off your video. I would like to thank Russ and Paul, and also thank my fellow League volunteers, and thank you, the attendees, for coming to this forum. Please go advance to the next slide, please. Please remember to vote on or before Tuesday, November 3rd. If you like this event, you might be interested in our recorded candidate forms for Sunnyvale Districts 2 and 4 and the Sunnyvale mayoral race, and our presentation on the 12 state ballot measures. All these are available at the League of Women Voters of Cupertino-Sunnyvale website. Thank you.